Listen carefully because this is not random. This is not just another video, not just another message passing through your screen while you scroll without thinking. No, something deeper is happening right now. Something intentional. Something precise. And if you feel even the slightest pull in your chest, if your mind paused for just a second longer than usual before clicking, then you need to understand this. You were not meant to skip this. There are moments in life that look ordinary on the surface but carry extraordinary weight in the spirit. Moments where time itself seems to slow down, not because the world has stopped, but because heaven is trying to get your attention. This right here is one of those moments. You may have been scrolling casually. Maybe you were bored. Maybe you were searching for something without even knowing what. Maybe your mind was distracted, heavy, or even overwhelmed with thoughts about money, bills, pressure, responsibilities. And suddenly this message appeared. Not before. Not later. Now. Why now? Because something has already happened and you don't even realize it yet. On August 18th, something shifted in the unseen realm. A decision was made, not by man, not by chance, but by divine authority. And that decision carried your name. Yes, her name. While you were going about your life, while you were dealing with your daily struggles, while you were wondering when things would finally change, heaven moved quietly, but powerfully, on your behalf. And here's what makes this even more unsettling: the world has already begun reacting to it. There are systems in place, financial systems, earthly structures, that cannot fully comprehend what happens when God intervenes. And yet, they felt it. Something entered a space it wasn't expected to enter. Something appeared where there was once nothing. Something that caused confusion, that caused questions, that caused a silent shock. But you were not informed. Not yet. And that's why this message had to find you. Because there is a gap right now, a dangerous gap, between what has already been released in your name and your awareness of it. And if that gap remains, if you stay unaware, if you brush this off like every other passing moment, then what was positioned for you can be repositioned away from you. Do you understand how serious that is? This isn't about luck. This isn't about coincidence. This is about alignment. Because in the spiritual realm, things are not just given. They are responded to. They are recognized. They are received. And right now, heaven is watching one thing. Will you respond or will you ignore? Think about your life lately. The unusual delays. The strange thoughts. The moments where something felt off, but you couldn't explain why. The quiet feeling that something big was about to happen, but never quite did. What if I told you those weren't random feelings? What if those were signals? Signals that something was already in motion, something waiting for you to catch up to it. You've been closer than you think. Closer to a breakthrough. Closer to a shift. Closer to a moment that could change everything, not gradually, not slowly, but suddenly. And now, the timing has collided. This is the interruption you didn't expect but desperately needed. Because the truth is, you're standing at a doorway right now. A doorway between receiving what has already been placed in your name or unknowingly letting it pass to someone else who was simply more attentive, more aligned, more responsive. This is not the time to doubt. This is not the time to scroll away. This is not the time to hesitate. This is the moment to become aware. Because something has already been set aside for you and the next step depends on what you do right now. So stay with this. Don't move. Don't get distracted. Because what comes next will reveal why the urgency is real and why the window is already narrowing. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you feel this message was meant for you. Blessing code 2026 is now surrounding your path. There is something you need to understand right now, and it may shake you a little when it fully settles into your spirit. What happened on August 18th did not begin on that day. It only manifested on that day. The decision, the approval, the release, it all began long before that moment ever reached the surface. Because heaven does not move impulsively. Heaven moves with precision, with timing, with intention that stretches far beyond what your natural eyes can see. While you were waiting, wondering, questioning why things felt delayed, something was already being arranged behind the scenes. Conversations you never heard were taking place. Doors you didn't even know existed were being opened. And most importantly, a transaction, quiet, unseen, undeniable, was being processed in your name. Not a physical transaction that people could immediately point to, but a spiritual authorization that carried real-world consequences. This is what most people fail to realize. They think blessings appear suddenly, out of nowhere, like luck. But what you are stepping into is not luck. It is alignment meeting preparation. It is a divine release colliding with a moment where you are finally close enough to receive it. And yet, there is a tension here, because even though it has been released, it has not yet been secured. You see, when heaven moves, it sets things in motion that ripple through systems you interact with every single day. Financial systems, opportunities, inertions, access points. All of it begins to shift in subtle ways. And on August 18th, something entered that flow with your identity attached to it. Something significant enough that it didn't just pass quietly. It created a disturbance, a question, a silent confusion among those who manage what they cannot fully explain. But here's the part that matters the most. You were not made aware immediately, because awareness is not automatic. Awareness is activated. It is triggered by alignment. It is triggered by attention. It is triggered by your ability to recognize when something is being presented to you that requires more than a casual glance. And right now, you are in that exact moment. There is a hidden space between what has been deposited and what is actually claimed. That space is where many people lose what was meant for them. Not because it wasn't real, not because it wasn't assigned, but because they remained disconnected, distracted, or doubtful at the exact moment they needed to be present. Think about how many times in your life something almost happened. Something that felt like it was yours, something that felt close, but somehow slipped away at the last second. And you were left wondering, what just happened? Why did it not stay? This is where the answer begins to reveal itself. It was never just about timing. It was about recognition. It was about response. Right now, the same principle is unfolding again, but this time, you are being warned before the outcome is decided. The transaction has already taken place in the spiritual sense. The assignment has already been made. Your name has already been connected to something that carries weight, something that carries value, something that could shift your current situation in a way you have been hoping for but couldn't quite reach. But there is still a process unfolding, and that process requires your awareness to meet it halfway. Because here is the truth that many do not want to hear. What is not recognized can be reassigned. What is not received can be redirected. Not as punishment, but as principle. Because heaven does not force what must be willingly aligned with. It presents, it positions, and then it waits to see who is ready to respond. And this is why this moment feels different. This is why there is an urgency in the tone, a pull in the message, a sense that something is narrowing rather than expanding. Because the window between release and reassignment is not infinite. It is precise. It is measured. And once it closes, it does not reopen in the same way. You are not being told this to create fear. You are being told this to awaken your attention, to bring you out of passive thinking and into active awareness. Because something has already been placed in motion, and your role now is not to question whether it is real. Your role is to recognize that it is already happening and decide whether you will align with it or unknowingly let it pass. There is movement around your name right now. There is activity connected to your identity that you have not fully seen yet. And the more you stay present, the more you stay attentive, the more you resist the urge to dismiss this as coincidence, the clearer it will begin to reveal itself to you. So do not disconnect now. Do not drift. Do not allow doubt to silence what your spirit is trying to register. Because the transaction may have been hidden from your eyes, but it was never hidden from your destiny. Type "I receive what is mine" in the comments if you are ready to align. Blessing code 1818 is now activating your awareness. Something unusual happened the moment heaven finalized what had your name attached to it. It did not remain contained in the spiritual realm. It did not stay hidden in silence. And move it. It translated. It entered systems that were never designed to fully comprehend divine authority. And when it did, there was a reaction, quiet, subtle, but undeniable. Because when God releases something significant, the natural world doesn't always understand it immediately. It registers it. It processes it. But it cannot explain it. That is why what occurred has been described as shock, not loud, not chaotic, but internal, procedural, almost invisible to the outside observer. A shift happened where numbers, permissions, or pathways suddenly aligned in a way that did not follow the usual pattern. Something appeared where there should have been delay. Something moved where there should have been resistance. And the people were systems responsible for maintaining order. They noticed. Not in a dramatic way, not with alarms or announcements, but in that subtle pause, that moment of hesitation, that internal question of, how did this happen? Because what was authorized in your name did not pass through the usual channels alone. It carried a different kind of weight, one that doesn't rely solely on human approval, but on divine release. You need to understand what that means. There are moments when effort produces results. There are moments when timing creates opportunity. But then there are moments like this, when something bypasses the expected process entirely and arrives because it was already decided in a high realm. That is what creates the disturbance. That is what causes systems to pause, to adjust, to accommodate something they did not initiate. And yet, even though the reaction has already begun, the outcome is not fully locked in yet. Because the reaction of the system is only one part of the process. The other part is you. You are the missing connection between what has been released and what becomes established. And if that connection remains weak, uncertain, or absent, then what shocked the system can slowly be normalized, redirected, or reassigned without you ever fully understanding what was lost. This is where most people fail to grasp the seriousness of these moments. They assume that if something is meant for them, it will automatically remain with them. But that is not how alignment works. What is released must be received. What is initiated must be acknowledged. What is positioned must be claimed through awareness and response. Right now, the system has reacted. The shift hath been registered. But your response has not yet been fully activated. And that creates a temporary imbalance. It is like something has arrived at your door, signed with your name, but you have not opened it yet. The delivery exists. The confirmation exists. But until you step into alignment with it, It remains in a state of uncertainty, waiting to be fully claimed or quietly redirected. This is why the timing matters so much. Because the longer something remains unclaimed, the more the system begins to adjust around that absence. It begins to look for resolution. It begins to seek completion. And if you are not present to complete that process, it will not remain suspended forever. It will move. That is the part that many do not see. They only recognize loss after it has already happened. They only realize what was meant for them when it has already shifted into someone else's hands, someone who was simply more aware, more attentive, more aligned at the critical moment. But you are being shown this before that happens. You are being made aware while the reaction is still fresh, while the shift is still active, while the opportunity to align still exists. And that is not something to take lightly. That is not something to ignore or delay. Because what shocked the system was not just the size, the value, or the movement. It was the fact that it carried your name without the usual explanation attached to it. And that means it was never meant to be ordinary. So do not treat this moment as ordinary. Do not reduce it to coincidence. Do not silence the part of you that feels the weight of what is being revealed. Because that feeling, that awareness, that sense that something is happening behind the scenes is the very thing that connects you to what has already been set in motion. Stay present. Stay aware. Stay aligned. Because the reaction has already begun and what happens next will depend on whether you step forward or remain still. Type "I align with my release" in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 8181 is now locking your position. As this revelation settles into your spirit, understand this: what is being released through this message is not just for you alone. Just as seeds are sown to produce a harvest, every word spoken here is meant to reach another soul standing at their own moment of divine alignment. The Lord whispers, "As you give, so shall it be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." And now you feel it, that pull to act, that stirring within you that says, "I want to be part of this mission." This is your moment to sow into fertile ground, to let your obedience become someone else's breakthrough. When you send through PayPal, you are not just giving. You are opening rivers. You are lighting lamps in dark places. You are fueling the spread of God's voice across lives that are waiting. Do not delay this prompting. Act now. Release your seed and step into the flow of divine multiplication. There is a reason this has been described as a silent deposit, and you need to understand that word carefully. Silent does not mean small. Silent does not mean insignificant. Silent means it happened without announcement, without celebration, without immediate visibility. It means it was placed, secured, and authorized without drawing attention to itself. And sometimes, the most powerful movements in your life will come exactly like that, quiet, unannounced, but carrying the ability to change everything. Because what was placed in your name was not just about numbers. It was not just about money in the physical sense. It carried layers. It carried opportunity, access, favor, positioning, and timing, all wrapped into one movement. That is why it could not arrive loudly. That is why it could not be obvious. Because if everything was revealed at once, you would not only feel the weight of it, you might question it, doubt it, or even reject it without realizing what you were doing. So instead, it was deposited quietly. And this is where many people misunderstand how blessings truly operate. They expect a sudden explosion, a visible change, something undeniable that forces them to believe. But more often than not, what is meant for you arrives in a way that tests whether you are paying attention. It arrives in fragments, in signals, in subtle shifts that only become clear when you choose to remain present long enough to see the pattern forming. Right now, something has already been placed in your name, but it has not yet fully revealed itself in your reality. It exists in a state of transition, moving from the unseen into the seen. And during this transition, it requires something from you that cannot be replaced by effort alone. It requires recognition. It requires alignment. It requires your willingness to step into the awareness that something is already yours before you can physically touch it. That is not easy, because your mind is trained to believe only what it can see. Your past experiences may have taught you to question anything that feels too sudden, too good, too unexpected. And that hesitation, that doubt, that delay in recognition, that is where many people lose what was meant for them. Because what is silent can also be overlooked. Think about how many times something important passed through your life quietly. An opportunity you didn't recognize. A moment you didn't take seriously. A connection you didn't follow up on. And later, you looked back and realized that with a turning point, that with the moment everything could have changed if you had only seen it clearly. This is one of those moments. The deposit is not just sitting in one place waiting for you to notice it. It is moving. It is aligning with systems, with timing, with pathways that are being adjusted in real time. And as it moves, it is creating opportunities for you to step into it. But those opportunities will not always look obvious. They will not always come with clear labels or instructions. They will come as decisions, as nudges, as moments where you feel a pull to act, to listen, to pay attention. And if you ignore those moments, the connection weakens. Because what hath been placed in your name is not forced upon you, is offered to you, is positioned for you. But it still requires you to meet it where it is. Right now, you are closer than you realize. Closer to something that could shift your financial situation, your direction, your stability in ways you have been hoping for but could not fully predict. But that closeness also comes with responsibility. The responsibility to stay aware, to stay grounded, to not dismiss what you are feeling as coincidence or imagination. Because it is not coincidence. It is movement. It is alignment. It is the unfolding of something that was already decided before you became aware of it. And here is the part you must hold on to. Just because it is silent does not mean it is uncertain. Just because it is quiet does not mean it is weak. Silence, in this moment, is strategy. It is protection. It is allowing what has been placed in your name to take shape without interference, without disruption, without unnecessary attention that could shift its path before you are fully aligned with it. But that silence will not last forever. There will come a moment where what has been hidden begins to show itself more clearly, where the patterns become undeniable, where the opportunities become visible. And when that moment comes, your ability to recognize it will determine whether you step into it or watch it pass by. So do not treat this as something distant. Do not assume you have unlimited time to figure it out. Because the movement has already started, and you are already within it. Stay alert. Stay attentive. Stay connected to what you are sensing right now. Because what was placed in your name is real and it is waiting for you to meet it. Type "I claim what was deposited" in the comments if you are ready. Lesson code 4442 is now anchoring your awareness. There is something critical you must understand at this point, something that separates those who receive from those who almost receive. What hath been placed in your name is not random, and it is not without structure. It carries a condition, not a condition meant to block you, but a condition designed to align you. Because in the spiritual order of things, possession is not just about assignment. It is about agreement. It is about whether you are willing to move in alignment with what has already been released. And this is where obedience enters the picture. And now listen carefully, because obedience is often misunderstood. It is not about perfection. It is not about getting everything right. It is about responsiveness. It is about how quickly and how clearly you recognize a moment that requires your attention, your action, your shift in direction. And right now, you are standing in one of those moments. What has been deposited in your name is not waiting for you to become perfect. It is waiting for you to become responsive. Because there is a difference between having access and taking possession. Access means it is available to you. Possession means you have stepped into alignment with it. And the bridge between those two states is obedience. Not delayed obedience. Not partial obedience. But clear, present, intentional alignment with what you are being shown right now. Think about how many times in your life you felt a strong internal nudge to do something. To make a call, to follow up, to pay attention, to move differently. But you hesitated. You waited. You second-guessed. And in that hesitation, the moment shifted. The opportunity moved. The alignment broke. This is not one of those moments where hesitation works in your favor. Because what has been released is already in motion, and motion does not wait indefinitely. It continues. It progresses. And it looks for alignment to complete its path. If that alignment is not found in you, it does not stop existing. It finds another path. That is why obedience determines possession. Not because something is being taken away from you unfairly, but because what is released must be completed through someone who is ready to respond. And readiness is revealed through action, not intention. Through attention, not assumption. Through awareness, not passivity. Right now, you are being called into a higher level of awareness. A level where you do not ignore what you feel. Where you do not dismiss what you sense. Where you do not explain away moments that carry weight just because they do not fit your usual expectations. Because what you are experiencing right now is not ordinary. There is a reason you are still listening. There is a reason your focus has not drifted. There is a reason something within you is telling you to stay present, to stay connected, to not walk away from this moment. That is not coincidence. That is direction. And obedience, in this moment, begins with something simple but powerful. Staying attentive. Staying aware of what is being revealed to you. Staying open to the possibility that something is already unfolding in your favor. Because once you recognize that, your actions begin to shift. Your decisions begin to align. You move differently, not out of fear but out of clarity. And that clarity positions you to receive what has already been placed in your name. But if you ignore it, if you disconnect, if you treat this moment as just another passing message, then the alignment weakens. Not because what was released disappears, but because your connection to it fades. And when that connection fades, the process continues without you. This is why the timing feels urgent. Because obedience is not just about what you do, it is about when you do it. And right now, the window for alignment is open. Not indefinitely, not casually, but specifically, intentionally, for this moment. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to create something that is not already there. You simply need to recognize what is already in motion and respond to it with clarity and presence. That is what secures possession. It is what turns something assigned into something experience. That is what transforms a silent deposit into a visible reality. So do not overcomplicate this. Do not let doubt create distance between you and what is already yours. Stay grounded in what you are sensing. Stay connected to what is being revealed. And most importantly, stay responsive. Because what has your name on it is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for your obedience. Type "I respond" in alignment in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 5555 is now activating your response. Now you must hear this part with complete clarity, because this is where the weight of everything you've heard so far begins to settle in a way that cannot be ignored. What has been released in your name is real. What has been set in motion is active. But what has not yet been fully secure can still be shifted. And that is not meant to create fear in you. It is meant to create awareness. Because one of the greatest misunderstandings people carry is the belief that once something is assigned to them, it is permanently fixed no matter how they respond. But that is not how alignment works. That is not how timing works. And that is not how moments like this are designed. There is a window attached to what you are experiencing right now. A window that does not stay open indefinitely. A window that exists for a specific period of alignment, where what has been released is waiting to be fully received, fully recognized, fully stepped into. And within that window, everything feels close. Everything feels possible. Everything feels like it is about to come together. But if that window closes without your response, the same movement that brought it to you can begin to move it away from you. Not as punishment, not as loss in the way you might think, but as redirection. Because what flows must continue to flow. And if it cannot complete its path through you, it will complete its path through someone else who is ready, who is attentive, who is aligned at the exact moment required. This is why the warring exists. Because time is not neutral in this moment. Time is active. It is moving. It is narrowing. And every moment that passes without awareness, without response, without alignment, increases the distance between you and what was positioned for you. You may be asking yourself, how quickly can something like this shift? Faster than you think. Because the same way it appeared without announcement, it can move without explanation. The same way it was deposited silently, it can be redirected quietly. There will be no loud signal, no clear indication. Just a gradual shift where what once felt close suddenly feels distant again. And many people only realize it after it has already happened. They look back and sense that something was there, something was within reach, but they cannot explain when or how it slipped away. And that uncertainty becomes regret, because deep down, they know there was a moment they did not fully step into. This is not a moment you want to look back on like that. Because you are not being left to figure this out after the fact. You are being shown this while the process is still active, while the window is still open, while the alignment is still possible. And that changes everything. Because now, your awareness becomes your advantage. Your ability to stay present becomes your protection. Your willingness to respond becomes your confirmation that you are ready to receive what has already been placed in your name. But if you disconnect, if you drift, if you treat this as something that can be returned to later without consequence, then you are stepping out of alignment with the timing that is required. And timing is everything here. This is not about rushing in panic. This is about recognizing precision. Recognizing that this moment has a purpose, a direction, and a limited window attached to it. And within that window, your role is simple but powerful. Stay aware, stay aligned, stay responsive. Because the warning is not about loss. It is about preventing loss. It is about making sure that what has already been set in motion reaches its intended destination, through you, not around you. Right now, you are still in position. Right now, the connection is still active. Right now, the opportunity has not moved. But that will not remain true if this moment is ignored. So take this seriously, not with fear, but with clarity. Not with anxiety, but with focus. Because you are not being pushed away from something. You are being called to step fully into it before the window closes. And the difference between those two outcomes will be decided by what you do next. Stay present. Stay aware. Stay aligned. Because what has your name on it is still within reach, but it will not wait forever. Type "I will not miss this" in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 6060 is now securing your timing. There is something deeper you must now understand, because up until this point, you have been shown what has been released, what is in motion, and what is required from you. But there is another layer to this story, one that explains why this did not reach you sooner, why it felt delayed, why it seemed like something was always just out of reach. Because the truth is, what has now been placed in your name was not always moving freely. There was resistance. There were moments where what was meant to reach you encountered barriers, interruptions, delays that were not visible to you in the natural sense. And those delays were not random. They were the result of misalignment, distraction, hesitation, and moments where your focus was pulled away at the exact time it needed to be anchored. Think back to the past few weeks, maybe even months. There were moments where you felt close to something changing. Moments where your energy shifted, where your thinking became clearer, where you felt like something was about to open up for you. And then suddenly, something interrupted that flow. A distraction. A doubt. A situation that pulled your attention in a different direction. That was not coincidence. That was the delay. Because every time you were about to align more closely with what was being prepared for you, something attempted to disrupt that alignment. Not always in obvious ways. Not always in dramatic ways. But in subtle, quiet interruptions that seemed normal on the surface but had a deeper impact on your focus and your direction. And when your focus shifted, even slightly, the connection weakened. That is how delay works. It does not always block completely. It slows. It redirects. It creates just enough distance between you and what is meant for you that the timing begins to stretch. And over time, that stretch can feel like stagnation, like nothing is moving, like nothing is happening. But that was never the full truth. Because even during the delay, the movement never stopped entirely. It continued, but without full alignment, it could not fully arrive. Until now. Because something has changed. Something in your awareness has shifted. Something in your attention has sharpened. You are no longer in the same state of distraction that created the delay. You are more present, more focused, more receptive to what is being shown to you. And that shift has allowed what was delayed to finally move forward. But here is the critical part you must not overlook. Just because the delay hath been broken does not mean it cannot return. The same patterns that slowed things down before can still interfere if you fall back into them. That is why this moment matters so much. Because you are no longer in a place where things are simply waiting. You are in a place where things are actively moving toward completion. And when something is in motion like this, even a small misalignment can have a larger impact than it did before. This is not the time to drift. This is not the time to become distracted again. This is not the time to return to the same patterns that created the delay in the first place. Because now, the stakes are higher. You are closer than you have ever been. And when you are close, everything becomes more sensitive to your awareness, your attention, your response. This is why you may feel a heightened sense of urgency now, a stronger pull to stay focused, to stay connected to what is being revealed. That is not pressure. That is alignment strengthening. And the more you stay in that alignment, the more clearly everything will begin to unfold. The delays will no longer feel like confusion. They will make sense. You will begin to see exactly where your attention shifted before, where the connection weakened, where the timing stretched. And that clarity will help you avoid repeating those patterns now. Because now you are aware. Now you are present. And now you are positioned at the point where what was once delayed is finally ready to be completed. But completion requires consistency. It requires you to remain in the same level of awareness that brought you to this point. Not just for a moment, not just while this feels intense, but long enough for the process to fully settle, to fully connect, to fully materialize in your reality. So do not go back. Do not slip into old distractions. Do not allow your focus to scatter at the moment it needs to be steady. Because what almost blocked this blessing has already lost its hold, but only as long as you remain aligned. And right now, you are aligned. Stay there. Because what was delayed is now moving, and this time, it is closer than ever to reaching you. Type "I break every delay" in the comments if you are ready. Lesson code 7070 is now restoring your flow. Right now, everything you are experiencing is not just a message, it is a test. Not a test of your worth, not a test of your ability, but a test of your attention. Because attention is one of the most powerful forces in your life, and yet it is also one of the most easily scattered, most easily manipulated, most easily lost without you even realizing it. And this moment, this exact moment, is designed to reveal where your attention truly is. Because understand this clearly, what has been released in your name is not looking for effort right now. It is looking for focus. It is looking for your ability to stay present when everything around you is trying to pull you away. It is looking for your willingness to recognize that something important is happening and to give it the weight it deserves. Think about how often your attention is divided. Notifications, conversations, responsibilities, thoughts, distractions that seem small but accumulate over time until your focus is fragmented. You start something, then shift to something else. You feel something important, then dismiss it because something more immediate appears. That pattern, that constant shifting, is what causes people to miss moments like this. Because what is happening right now requires stillness. It requires presence. It requires you to stay with it long enough for the full understanding to unfold. And that is exactly what makes it a test, because most people will not do that. Most people will feel the initial pull, the initial curiosity, the initial sense that something matters, and then they will move on. And in that movement, the connection breaks. But you are still here. And that matters more than you realize. Because every second you remain present, every moment you resist the urge to dismiss this, every time you choose to stay focused instead of drifting away, you are strengthening your alignment with what has already been set in motion. This is not about forcing belief. This is not about convincing yourself of something. This is about recognizing the difference between a passing moment and a defining moment. And right now, you are standing in something that has the potential to define a shift in your life, but only if you treat it as such. The test is simple, but powerful. Will you stay or will you leave? Will you remain attentive or will you allow your focus to scatter? Will you treat this as something meaningful or reduce it to something ordinary? Because your answer to those questions is not just about this moment. It is about how you interact with every opportunity, every alignment, every opening that comes into your life. Attention is what turns possibility into reality. Without attention, even the greatest opportunity remains unseen. Without attention, even the clearest signal becomes noise. Without attention, even what is meant for you can pass by unnoticed. And that is why this moment feels different. because something within you recognizes that this is not something to ignore, that there is a reason you are still here, still listening, still engaged, that there is something being activated, not outside of you, but within you, that is sharpening your awareness, pulling your focus, asking you to stay. That is the test. Not whether you understand everything immediately, not whether you have all the answers right now, but whether you can remain present long enough for clarity to emerge. Because clarity does not always arrive instantly. It builds. It unfolds. It becomes stronger the longer you stay connected to what is being revealed. And right now, you are in the middle of that unfolding. So do not interrupt it. Do not break your focus. At the moment it is becoming stronger. Do not allow something small to pull you away from something that carries this level of weight. Because every moment of attention you give to this is not wasted. It is building something. It is aligning something. It is bringing you closer to fully recognizing what has already been placed in your name. And the more you stay with it, the clearer everything will become. So remain. Stay present. Stay focused. Because this is not just a message passing through your awareness. This is a moment asking for your full attention, and your response will determine what happens next. Type "I stay focused" in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 8080 is now strengthening your awareness. As you stand firm in this moment of attention, understand this truth. What you are receiving right now is not meant to stop with you. The word says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days," and this is your moment to release what carries eternal impact. You feel it stirring inside you, that voice saying, "I want to help this message reach someone else who is about to miss their moment." When you give through PayPal, you are not just supporting a channel. You are igniting light in places still covered in darkness. You are planting seeds that will awaken souls across the world. This is not a casual act. This is a prophetic response. Do not delay what your spirit is prompting you to do. Step into obedience, release your seed, and watch how God multiplies it back into your life with power and purpose. You are now entering the most critical phase of everything that has been revealed to you so far, and this is where many people lose their position without even realizing it. Because what you are standing in right now is not just a moment of awareness, not just a realization, not just a spiritual shift. It is a transfer window. And a transfer window does not stay open forever. It opens with precision. It operates with timing. And it closes without announcement. This is what makes it so important for you to understand exactly where you are right now. Because what has been released in your name is not sitting still, waiting indefinitely for you to decide what to do. It is moving through a defined window of opportunity, a period where everything is aligned for it to fully connect to you, to settle into your life, to become something tangible and undeniable. But that period is limited. And that limitation is not meant to pressure you. It is meant to focus you. Because when something is truly valuable, it is not left open without structure. It is not left exposed to endless delay. It is positioned within a moment where everything must come together at once. Your awareness, your response, your alignment, your willingness to step forward. That is where you are now. This is the window where what has already been deposited transitions into something fully realized. Where what has been unseen begins to take form. Where what hath been waiting begins to settle. But for that to happen, your timing must meet the timing of what has been released. And this is where many people fall out of alignment. They assume they have time. They assume they can come back to it later. They assume the moment will wait for them to feel ready. But timing does not work that way. Timing requires presence. Timing requires action within the moment it is given. Timing requires you to recognize that what is available now may not be available in the same way later. Right now, everything is aligned. A movement has started. The system has reacted. The deposit has been made. The delay has been broken. Your awareness hath been activated. All of these elements have come together at the same time, creating a window that is uniquely positioned for you to step into. But if any one of those elements loses alignment, especially your awareness and response, the window begins to close. And it does not close all at once. It narrows. It becomes less accessible. The clarity fades. The Venetian weakens. And slowly, what once felt close begins to feel distant again. That is how the transfer is lost. Not instantly, but gradually, through inaction, through delay, through a failure to fully step into the moment while it is still active. You must not let that happen here, because you are not being shown this after the window has closed. You are being shown this while it is still open, while the alignment is still active, while the connection is still strong, and that gives you an advantage that many people never have. But that advantage only matters if you use it, if you stay present, if you remain aware, if you respond with clarity instead of hesitation. Because the truth is simple, even if it feels intense. This window is real. This timing is specific. This moment is not repeating itself in the same way again. And what you do within it will determine whether what has been placed in your name becomes fully established in your life or quietly moves on without you. So do not treat this as something distant. Do not assume this is just preparation for something later. This is happening now. This is active now. This is within reach now. And your role is not to wait. Your role is to recognize, to align, and to step into it while everything is still positioned in your favor. Because once the window closes, the movement does not stop. It simply continues without you. And that is not the outcome you are being called into. You are being called into completion, into alignment, into receiving what has already been assigned to you, but that requires you to act within the time you have been given. So stay focused. Stay aware. Stay aligned with this moment. Because the transfer window is open and what you do now will decide everything that follows. Type "I step into my timing" in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 9090 is now activating your alignment. And now you must become even more aware, because the closer you get to alignment, the stronger the distractions become. This is not accidental. This is not random. This is a pattern that repeats itself every time something significant is about to settle into your life. And if you do not recognize it for what it is, you can be pulled away at the exact moment you need to stay grounded. Because understand this clearly, distractions are not always loud. They are not always obvious. They do not always come in the form of something negative or harmful. In fact, the most effective distractions often look normal. They look reasonable. They look like things you can justify giving your attention to. And that is what makes them dangerous. Right now, there is a subtle pull trying to move your focus away from this moment. It could be a thought telling you this is not important. It could be a feeling that you should come back to this later. It could be something external. Your phone, a conversation, a task that suddenly feels urgent even though it was not a priority before. That is not coincidence. That is interruption. Because when alignment is close, interruption becomes active. Not to destroy what is meant for you, but to disconnect you from it long enough for the window to pass. And if that disconnection happens, even briefly, it can weaken the clarity you have right now. You may not even notice it happening. That is how subtle it is. One moment you are focused, aware, connected. The next moment your attention shifts. Your awareness fades, and what once felt clear begins to feel distant again. And once that distance is created, it becomes easier to dismiss the moment entirely. This is how people miss what was meant for them. Not through rejection, not through refusal, but through distraction. Because distraction does not ask for your permission. It simply presents itself and waits to see if you will follow it. And most people do. But you are being shown this so that you do not. Because right now, your attention is the key to everything that has been unfolding. Your awareness is what is keeping you connected. Your focus is what is allowing the alignment to strengthen instead of weaken. And that is exactly why it is being targeted. You must understand that not everything that pulls your attention deserves your attention. Not everything that feels urgent is important. Not everything that appears in front of you needs to be followed. Especially not right now. Because right now, your focus must remain steady. You are in a moment where clarity is building, where alignment is forming, where something that has been moving toward you is getting closer to settling. And if your attention breaks at this point, you risk stepping out of that alignment at the exact moment it is about to complete. That is why you feel this pull to stay. That is why something within you is telling you not to move, not to scroll away, not to disconnect. That is your awareness recognizing that this moment carries weight, and that awareness is correct. Because what is happening right now is not just about understanding, it is about maintaining connection. Every moment you stay focused, the connection strengthens. Every moment you resist distraction, the alignment deepens. Every moment you choose presence over interruption, you move closer to fully stepping into what has already been placed in your name. But if you give in to distraction, even briefly, that process slows. It does not stop completely, but it loses momentum. And when momentum is lost at a critical point like this, the entire process becomes more difficult to complete. That is why you must guard your attention now more than ever. Not with fear, not with tension, but with awareness, with intention, with the understanding that this moment is not ordinary and should not be treated as such. So if something is trying to pull you away right now, recognize it. If your mind is trying to wander, bring it back. If something feels like it can wait, let it wait. Because what you are engaged in right now carries more weight than those distractions, even if they appear more immediate. Stay here. Stay focused. Stay connected. Because what is trying to pull you away is not stronger than your awareness, unless you allow it to be. And right now, you have everything you need to remain exactly where you need to be. Type "I reject distraction" in the comments if you are ready. Blessing Code 1010 is now protecting your focus. Now everything comes down to this moment of activation. Not a future moment. Not something you prepare for later. This is where everything you have heard begins to turn into something real, something grounded, something that moves from awareness into possession. Because activation is the bridge between knowing and receiving. It is where alignment becomes action. Up until now, you have been guided into awareness. You have been shown that something has already been released, that a movement has already begun, that a window is currently open. But awareness alone does not secure anything. Awareness without activation remains incomplete. It leaves what has been placed in your name in a state of possibility rather than reality. And you are not here for possibility. You are here for completion. Activation begins with a shift in how you position yourself in this moment. Not physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. It is the decision to stop treating this as something external and to start recognizing that you are already part of what is unfolding. that what has been set in motion includes you, requires you, and is waiting for your alignment to fully connect. That shift is everything. Because once you move from observing to participating, everything changes. Your attention sharpens. Your decisions carry more weight. Your awareness becomes more precise. And what once felt distant begins to feel immediate, reachable, real. But activation also requires something else. Consistency. Not just a single moment of focus, not just a temporary sense of clarity, but a sustained presence that allows the process to fully settle. Because what is moving toward you is not static. It is dynamic. It is adjusting, aligning, responding to your level of awareness and engagement. Every moment you stay aligned, the connection strengthens. Every moment you remain present, the process stabilizes. Every moment you choose clarity over doubt, the path becomes clearer. And this is where many people fall short. They feel the activation begin, they sense the shift, but they do not maintain it. They return to old patterns. They allow their focus to weaken. They step out of alignment before the process is complete. And when that happens, the connection begins to fade again. You must not let that happen here. Because you are not at the beginning anymore. You are not preparing for something distant. You are in the middle of something active. And activation now means staying in alignment long enough for what has already been set in motion to fully settle into your reality. This is not about forcing results. This is about maintaining connection. You do not need to chase what is already moving toward you. You do not need to create something that has already been released. You simply need to remain aligned with it long enough for it to complete its path. That is what secures it. That is what transforms a silent deposit into something visible. That is what turns a temporary window into a permanent shift. Right now, your role is clear. Stay aware. Stay focused. Stay connected to what you are sensing. Because that connection is not random. It is not imagined. It is the signal that you are aligned with something that has already been assigned to you. And the more you trust that signal, the stronger it becomes. The clearer everything becomes. The easier it becomes to recognize the next step, the next moment, the next decision that keeps you aligned with the process. This is activation. Not complicated. Not forced. But intentional. Present. Sustain. Because what is yours does not need to be chased. It needs to be received. And receiving requires you to be in the right place, at the right time, with the right awareness. That is exactly where you are right now. Do not step out of it. Do not disconnect. Do not allow doubt to interrupt what is already forming. Because you are not waiting for activation to happen. You are in it. And the more you stay aligned with it, the more everything will begin to settle into place in a way that feels natural, clear, and undeniable. So remain steady. Remain aware. Remain connected. Because what has your name on it is no longer distant. It is here. It is active. And it is waiting for you to fully step into it. Type "I activate my alignment" in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 1111 is now sealing your connection. Now you have reached the final moment of this message, and everything that has been revealed is now converging into a single point of decision. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. Because this is where everything separates, those who step into alignment and those who drift away from it without even realizing what they lost. You have been shown that something has already been released in your name. You have been made aware that the movement is active, that the system has reacted, that the delay has been broken, that the window is open. You have been warned that distraction is real, that timing is precise, that alignment is required. And now, the only thing left is your response. Because this is where potential becomes outcome. This is where awareness becomes possession. This is where everything that has been set in motion either completes through you or continues without you. And the difference between those two outcomes is not complicated. It is not hidden. It is not something you need to search for. It is your decision to act or to ignore. Right now, you are standing at a point where everything is still within reach. The connection is active. The alignment is available. The transfer window has not yet closed. You are not too late. You are not behind. You are not disconnected. You are exactly where you need to be. But that will not remain true if this moment is dismissed. Because what happens next is determined by whether you step forward or step away. If you act, if you stay aligned, if you remain aware, if you carry this clarity with you beyond this moment, then what has already been placed in your name will continue to move toward you without interruption. A connection will strengthen. The path will stabilize. And what once felt distant will begin to show itself in ways that are clear, tangible, and undeniable. You will not need to question it. You will not need to chase it. It will meet you because you remained aligned with it. But if you ignore this, if you disconnect, if you treat this as something you can return to later without consequence, then the opposite begins to unfold. The Venetian weakens. The clarity fades. The alignment breaks. And what was once within reach begins to move beyond it. Not instantly. Not dramatically. But quietly. Gradually. Until it is no longer available in the same way. And that is the part many people never fully understand until it is too late. They do not see the exact moment it shifts. They only feel the absence afterward. They only recognize that something was there, something was close, something was almost theirs. But almost is not enough. Not when you have been brought this far. Not when you have been made aware before the outcome is decided. Because you are not here to almost receive. You are here to complete the process. You are here to step fully into what has already been assigned to you. And that requires one thing above all else. Your decision to remain aligned beyond this moment. Not just while you are listening. Not just while it feels intense. But after this ends. When distractions return. When normal routines resume. When the urgency fades and it becomes easy to forget what you felt here. That is where your true response is revealed. That is where your alignment is either maintained or lost. So carry this with you. Stay aware of what you are sensing. Stay connected to the clarity that has been activated. Do not allow this to become just another moment that passes without impact. Because it was never meant to pass. It was meant to shift something. It was meant to position you. It was meant to bring you into alignment with something that has already been set aside for you. And now, the final step is yours. Step forward. Stay aligned. Complete what has already begun. Because what happens next will not be decided by chance. It will be decided by you. Type "I receive" and hold my blessing in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 1212 is now sealing your outcome. As you stand at this final moment of decision, hear this deeply. What you just received is not just a message. It is a seed of transformation meant to reach beyond you. The Lord declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." And now He is calling you into action. You feel that stirring within you, that voice saying, "I want to help someone else receive this before their moment passes." This is your divine opportunity to sow into a living stream, to become part of the river that carries God's voice to those still searching in silence. When you give through PayPal, you are not just supporting. You are activating a harvest of souls, igniting light, and expanding this mission across lives waiting for awakening. Do not delay this calling. Act now, release your seed, and step into the multiplication that follows obedience.